Hello, kids. Welcome to the last presentation on the fundamental needs. This is Mr. Fry, and this time our topic, our era, is going to be the contemporary era. This is bringing us up pretty much to present day. So a lot of things you're going to see on this are going to be very familiar, and it's really quite different from any other one we've looked at so far. And I'll be telling you about that as we go through. The first topic we're going to look at, as you know by now, is food. We're in a good time for food right now, people. We have got a lot of food in a lot of places around the world. Is it perfectly distributed? No. But do we have a lot of it? Yes. That is mainly because of technology we've developed for bringing water from faraway places to exactly where we need it and spraying it out upon our crops to make sure the things that we're growing have enough water to and fertilizers and other nutrients they need to survive and grow quickly and as fast as we can so we can do this, collect them. And the machines we have now for collection are not, some places are still done by hand, but mostly they're now done by giant tractors like this where they can collect huge amounts of food in very short periods of time from very large areas of land. This also goes for animals. Uh, we don't really need to hunt for our food anymore, that's for sure. We have the food brought to us. This is the way it's been for quite a long time, but we're getting very good now at mass producing animals. This is sometimes a little controversial. Some people don't want animals done grown up like this. That's fair. And so it's a little bit controversial, but the fact is we can grow as much plants now and quite often as many animals as we need for a very large portion of the world's population. That means when you sit down at the table, most people have a pretty good selection of what they can eat. Now, inventions. Some inventions in this area are not exactly what you would consider beneficial. Junk food. Never have we had a time in this world where you can eat as many things as you like that quite simply are not good for you. What they do is they satisfy our natural cravings for salt and sugar and fat and protein, but they don't always necessarily bring the nutrients our body needs along the way. And yes, the typical term for this is junk food. It's got calories, it will keep you going, but it's not necessarily healthy for you. It's relatively a new thing, particularly the amount you can get. So we end up in a situation now in the contemporary the contemporary era, where you can eat the healthiest food you can imagine. You can have the best diet your body could ever crave, or you don't have to. The choice out there is for you to make now, and it's a very interesting time to live where you have choices such as this, so diverse in the realm of the food you can eat. On we go to shelters. Do you remember in the last video I was talking about concrete being the big new thing for building things? Well, it still is. Concrete is still one of the most popular things used to build all kinds of structures across the world. This one I'm showing you here being the Three Gorges Dam. It covers goes across the Yangtze River in China. It's the largest concrete structure in the world right now. I say right now because everything I tell you will probably be something will be made bigger eventually. On we go to iron. Iron came on the scene, very popular. One of the tallest iron structures in the world will actually be familiar to you. It is the Eiffel Tower. That is the tallest iron structure in the world. And as technology advanced, a lot of construction people realized if you mix the iron with just a bit of carbon, and maybe a few other trace elements, but mainly just carbon, you could make something far stronger. It was called steel. So steel is used in many structures now. Steel, iron, and concrete come together to build lots of stuff. Largest steel structure just recently made for the Beijing Olympics. There you go. It's the stadium they used in the Olympics, the largest steel structure in the world. So these things are still being used quite a bit right now to build shelters, which can get quite excessive, such as the Burj Khalifa found in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. This thing is the tallest building in the world. Why do they build it that tall? Because they can. In the contemporary era, there's not much you can't build if you really, really, really want to do. Now, I've taught you kids many times, there's a big difference between tall and big. People might want to say the Burj Khalifa is the biggest building in the world. It's not. It's the tallest. So what's the biggest? That would be this building here, found in Everett, Washington. If you walk inside this building, there will be more room by volume inside this building than any other building in the world. What would you need all that room for? Well, because inside this building, they build airplanes. As you can see, two, and there's even more than that, entire Boeing 747s are built inside these buildings. That's why you need them big. Largest building in the world right now, and they build airplanes inside of it. So right now, overall in this world, shelter's not a problem. This is the greater metropolitan area for Tokyo. If you expand just outside the greater area around Tokyo, you've got 38 million people. That is more people in this area than all of Canada. So right now, shelter's not, in some areas of the world it is, but in the vast majority, shelter's not a big problem for people right now. We got many places to live and many are being built all the time. Now we move on to clothing. What's happened with clothing in the contemporary era? Well, the biggest trend right now is before this era, most, or if not all over the material we use to make our clothing was natural sources, plants and animals pretty much. As technology advanced though in this era, we started to find materials that were completely manufactured in factories. Completely unnatural things you would never find in nature. And one of those that was first mass produced was nylon. Nylon was actually first invented for parachutes in World War II. They needed parachutes that were made with very light but strong material. This stuff worked. Soon after, clothing producers said, well, if you can make a parachute out of it, you can make clothing out of it. And they started to do exactly that. Nylon became very big and popular in fashion because, again, it was pretty tough and it was very versatile. Soon after that came polyester. Polyester was another completely manufactured material. Again, you would never find it in nature, but again, it was very tough. It was very strong. It kept its colors very well. It was very popular for uniforms and things like that because you could wash it again and 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 again. It wouldn't lose its color. Fashionable, comfortable. Nah, that was usually secondary to its durability. And then came spandex. Spandex is again completely artificial, but it's known for its elasticity. You can stretch it, you can pull it out, and it comes back into form again. Think of many different Under Armour garments you wear now. There are aerobics garments or yoga stuff. That stuff has a lot of spandex in it, so it's very stretchy. Even after washing it several times, it can maintain that stretchiness. And so people wear that for very form-fitting clothing, and it's mixed with other things. It's mixed with polyesters and nylons and cottons. So a lot of these things are now all mixed together. You'll very rarely get something made out of just polyester or just nylon or just spandex. They're blended together. So because of this, clothing today has the ability, as you can see in the picture there, to keep us alive in some of the most dire environments in the world. Here they can climb Everest. We have clothing that will keep us warm in the coldness of the highest altitudes available to us on the earth, and they can also get really ridiculous. So clothing can go any direction right now in this era, that's for sure. There's one I wanted to bring up though. This is my favorite material. It's actually very old, first coming out of Genoa, Italy, as far as research can show. It's called denim. Denim is what we use to make jeans. It's understood that the word jeans actually comes from Genoa, from Italy. That's where it originally came from. It is cotton, and it is a very tight weave. I can't get in all the details. I'm not a clothing designer, but it's tough stuff. And once it softens up and it's worn a lot and washed a lot, it gets very, very comfortable. So tough and yet comfortable. A gentleman named Levi Strauss, right in the beginning of the contemporary era, said this stuff would be really good for my workers, working in the mines and working in the fields. So they started to make these blue jeans. They weren't always blue. Blue is the most common color now, absolutely. But they found this when they were first made. Again, they're very tough, very rough to wear. Pretty much any jeans you wear now have been pre-washed because when they first made, they're tough, but they wear in oh so nicely. And because of their style, because of their durability, because of their comfort, they're arguably one of the most popular pieces of clothing in the world. So You cannot underestimate the impact denim had as far as clothing goes in this world. I'm wearing some right now. On we go. Do you remember this? No, that's not the steam engine. The steam engine, as you may remember, used steam that was created by a fire that heated up water, and the steam would make that little turbine move, and it would move the wheel. No, this was a new invention. They took the combustion, the burning aspect of the engine, and they put it inside the tube. Watch it. Look here. Boom. That's they put in a little bit of fuel, and it pops there, and it heats up the air inside, pushing that wheel forwards, and then it pulls back again, and it goes forward again, and it keeps having little tiny explosions, one after another, after another, after another, after another, after another, which moves that wheel again and again and again and again. And because the explosion's inside, they call it the internal combustion engine. Internal meaning the combustion is going on the inside. A steam engine is external combustion. And we got really good at building these. They generally had more power, and they're more compact. You didn't necessarily need an open burning fire and boiling water in order to run it, which was a real big benefit. The internal combustion engine became the engine to have. And what tea? Yes, yes. This is the same tea mug that I have at school. I brought home with me. Can't go without it. So the internal combustion engines, again, became the way to go. And one of the first things they made with it, of course, was a car. Who needs a horse to ride around on when you can get these little engines to make these little wheels go? And cars moved along very fast. One of the first most popular brands came out was Ford's. There were many others, but Ford was big in America. And he's gone from here, Model T Ford you see down the corner, to making a few more different versions we have today. But you know what, kids? They all still run on the internal combustion engine. It's only in the past few decades have we started to go electric. And electric is a completely different system. And that's a very, very new system right now. But for a long time, and most cars now still run on the same thing they did way back in the very, very, very first cars. And it wasn't just used in cars. Transportation went crazy with this engine. We started having these trains that previously ran with steam, now running on internal combustion engines. They got bigger. They didn't have to have that car in the back that was full of coal. They didn't have to have a gigantic tank of water to boil. Much easier to run these things. And boats did it too. Little boats, big boats. Internal combustion engines were found everywhere, pushing things, making them move, getting us around the world like we never could before, even in the air. This is the Wright Flyer, Wright as in W-R-I-G-H-T, named after the name of the brothers that first put together. First airplane used internal combustion engine. When their first test flights, one of the longest flights they had was just over 800 feet, so not far. But they got better and better and better and better, as you can imagine. Once they figured out, oh my gosh, this thing can work. Well, wow, things took off. No pun intended. Okay, it was. Now we have prop planes everywhere around the world. A prop plane is one with a propeller on it. Then we advanced to jet planes, and now we have turbines, and basically planes can bring people anywhere we want to go. If you want to, kids, there's just about nowhere on this earth you can't get to if you really want to. That's the kind of transportation we have now that we never had before in any other era. Even rockets. It is a form of transportation. It got us into space. It's just a controlled explosion that pushes something upwards. Now, we live there. We live in space. And in this era, or possibly the next, that you're going to be living through, for the first time ever in the history of humankind, we may be able to find transportation that can get us to another world. That's how far we're going. And I really hope I can see it too, because that'd be totally cool. So what I want you guys to get here is that the world's a big and complicated place. How do we defend ourselves? That's right, defense. And like I said in the other one, this is a tough kind of subject for me to go across because I don't want to talk about warfare. I don't want to talk about battles. That happens, and that always will happen. I want to talk about defense. How do we protect ourselves? How do we keep our country safe? And the example I'm going to give will be coming from North America, and it's going to be something that you can relate to. Customs and border protection, both in the United States and Canada, and throughout the world. Countries can protect themselves by trying to keep track and doing the best they can who's coming in and who's coming out and what are they bringing with them. This is a very simple, practical form of defense. You don't need giant weapons. You just need to make sure things are going smoothly. So let's look at Canada and the United States. We have this great border that's been peaceful for such a long time. I've been across it many times. I'm sure some of your parents have too. And it's an interesting form of. If you're in Canada, you can drive across the United States, and the United States, you can drive across Canada. Look at, you just drive across. But you don't need giant walls. You don't need anything. Let's just keep an eye on who's coming in, who's coming out. That's a really nice way to help defend our country and make sure we're keeping things we want to be. So what will happen is you go to the airport, or you drive up the border, whether Canada, the United States, and this will happen with most other countries in the world. They're going to have someone keeping track of who's coming in and who's coming out. And they're going to ask who you are, where are you from, how long were you there, what were you doing, what are you bringing back? These are common questions going to ask, and they're fair questions. It's the way they keep they defend their country, making sure you don't bring in things that they don't want you to bring in. And they may not believe you. They may say, I'd like to check your bag and make sure that you're telling the truth. And that's okay too. These are things they need to do. And so that is a really neat way to help defend where you live without getting violent. You don't need to have warfare. You just need to keep track of things. And this is how you do it. A wonderful, you could call it an invention. It's called a passport. A passport is a document, it's a very official document, that will have your picture on it and have information about you. Most importantly, where you are from. And you will use this as identification. This is cool, kids. You can use passports around the entire world. I could go to South Africa and I could give them my driver's license from Alberta and they'll go, huh? What's this? But if I give them my passport, American or Canadian, they'll go, oh, okay, now we get who you are. So passports are one of the greatest forms of defense for a country to have. It helps people keep track of who you are. And all sorts of countries have them all over the place. And yes, you can have more than one. It is possible. Not common, but it is possible to have more than one. And so passports are one of the greatest inventions of our era that help us keep track of things. And with these, all this transportation we have, and with keeping track of things like passports and customs and things like that, you can not only travel between the United States and Canada, you can travel anywhere around the world. It's a great time to be alive, that you can travel just about anywhere you want. Let's review one more time, and I'm going to tell you why it's so awesome to be alive now and why it's so great if you can actually have all 5 of your fundamental needs maintained and taken care of. You remember them: food, clothing, shelter, communication, transportation, and defense. If you have these, kids, if you can manage to keep these all steady and have what you want, you have time to relax, time to think, time to entertain yourself, time to create things like art, books, literature, not just reading, but writing them. Games, board games, pastimes, music. Sports. You can play sports. Realize sports are just a game that you play. And you can't do these things if you don't have the fundamental needs covered. Religion is huge. And good old philosophy. Oh, I'm covering up our little thinker there in the corner. Just time to think about life, the universe, and everything. That's why the fundamental needs are so important, because once you have those, you have everything else you see on the screen. But once you start losing those, you lose the things you have on the screen. You have different priorities. So I hope you kids really enjoy these several videos that I've made on fundamental needs. And I hope you really appreciate how important they are to us and how much they have changed over time and why now in our contemporary era, it's a fantastic time to live. Because if you do things right, you can have your fundamental needs covered and you can go off and make the world a better place with all the things you see on the screen before you now. So you take care. This is Mr. Fry saying goodbye. And I'll have more videos for you and other topics coming up soon. Bye-bye.